90% of the time, an actor's not talking when he's doing a film. He's just, reacting to things or looking. And each time, if he's the right person, you're projecting their story forward. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Now, so you put all these pieces together, then the music comes, then this comes, everything comes, and I can just say this. Every year, there's not that many great films. We all know that. Everybody wants to know why. Because it takes a very unique group or talent, or almost like an epiphany, an act of heaven or something, to make a movie really be good. And so we wouldn't be in front of you today if 2001 really, really wasn't good. I mean, a lot of people didn't like it, but here we are, many years later, talking about it, and we're asking questions, and some of you are, a third my age, and you still have questions. That's my point about a great film. I saw No Country for Old Men a few years ago. I don't know if you liked it, but in my opinion, it's absolutely brilliant. So it's a different story, but there you go. Bite your uncle once more time.
Anyone who didn't like 2001 is a savage with no culture.
You know what? I've used that very same term, and I have to tell you, I agree with you.
Thank you.
Savage.
Kanoi has a question for you.
Are you a little shy, my dear?
Yeah.
Here's a good thing to do. Let's all do it with you. Take a breath in. Let it out. Now take another breath in. Let half of it out. Bend your knees slightly. Not too much. And just reach over and say what you want to say.
Well,
Push the mic down, that'll help. Yeah.
last semester in my high school class, I took a lit class and it was sci-fi. And I actually watched 2001 for the first time. And it wasn't just me, but basically the whole class, just the movie had a huge effect on us and we loved it. And we all became like ridiculous nerds for the movie. But I would just like to ask, what is your reaction to the fact that the movie, even though it was made in the 60s, it still has a huge effect on younger generations?
Keir answered earlier when he said a work of art, Picasso. And that's, why people go to the museum and stand and look at Mona Lisa.
That's what makes it classic. The definition of a classic is something that lasts generation after generation. So what you just said, and it's so heartening for me, for both of us, that people your age respond to this film the way you do. And again, it proves that it's a classic. It has staying power, well, that's why Shakespeare's still around, because he was that good. And that's why I love doing these shows. I love talking to the old folks like us who remember the film and still want to meet us. But
like a Japanese samurais who were thousands of years old,
yeah,
and went through an incredible process to still be alive today, and they can still cut you in half.
But yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I also have another question. What would you say would be your fondest memories from working on 2001?
I don't want you to say anything about the girls in England. Yeah, not a word. Although the food was terrible.
Well, also, working with Stanley was a high. You knew that you were in the I knew that I was in the presence of genius. There's no question about it. I mean, it could have been Orson Welles, and he was very supportive. He never screamed. I had just come off a terrible director. Literally, 2 months before, I think I may have mentioned I was doing a film in London when I got the word that they wanted me for 2001. It was an infamous director by the name of Otto Preminger, and for those younger people who don't know who he was, there was a famous movie about a prisoner of war camp during the Second World War, Allied prisoners, and the commandant, the Nazi commandant of the prisoner of war camp, was played by Otto Preminger, and I tell people that was Otto on a nice day. So going from that to this extraordinary human being, Stanley Kubrick, was like going from hell to heaven.
By the way, that was Stalag 17.
Yeah, Stalag 17. Thank you. Thank you. You did really well.
She would like to know if she can get a hug from you.
Of course.
No one wants to hug the moderator. All right, I think we have...
Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer true. Three of you together again.
This questioner needs no introduction.
Okay.
Did you plan this, Keir?
That's great.
Forgive me for being so inquisitive.
Tell me.
I know I've made some very poor decisions recently. And the melodramatic touch of putting Doctors Hunter, Kimball, and Kaminsky aboard, already in hibernation after 4 months of separate training on their own.
That's great. That is great. Well
Thank you,
done.
Al.
Well done. We don't know whether it's a guy. I think from the legs it's a guy. Terrific.
I don't think Stanley would approve of the Levi's.
It's Casual Friday on the Odyssey.
This looks like there's another question coming up. Yes.
While he's stepping up, I have a quick question for you. One of the things that I love the most about 2001: A Space Odyssey as opposed to most other science fiction films, and I'm told that what I like the most is actual ratings depth for a film, and that's realism. You don't see that kind of attention to detail and the realism of what space travel is like and what astronauts have to go through. I mean, his decision to have no sound, for example, to no rocketing spaceship, little details like that. I was wondering if you have any comments about that.
I have one quick one. Stanley, at one point, he and I know we were having a glass of wine looking at Russians or something. And he said, I looked at him, we were watching the Russians, and I said, everything is so beautiful. I said, it's amazing. I knew we'd have an interesting movie, but I never thought it would be this beautiful most of the time. He said, well, remember, the more realistic we make it, the more we can zap them at the end. Think about that. That's a real brilliant storyteller. If he gets you to buy in that he really was there and I really was there and we really had this environment, and as he killed the people off, Hal and everybody buys into Hal, and I know that Keir will attest to this. You don't have any idea, because we've been doing shows for a period of time, and these people come up to us and they say, that movie changed my life. It was a game changer. It was a this, it was a that. I was going to med school. I dropped out. I went to computer school. So, I also did the pilot for Star Trek, and that's also sci-fi genre, but, people don't come up to me and say, oh, thank you. They don't come up to me and say, well, they come up and say, I bought an ashtray that looks like the Enterprise or something. Anyway, you get my picture.
Hi, me again. I was curious, did you feel at the time when it came out, did you feel that it had a positive effect on your careers, a negative effect, and then as the years went by, do you feel it had some effect on your careers?
Strangely enough, it had absolutely no effect on my career whatsoever. Maybe if the reaction people have today to the film could have been the reaction then, it might have. It didn't mean I didn't stop working, but many other films had far more influence, and I don't know why. The film, when it came out, it was not universally applauded by any means. In fact, some very well-known critics, one was in Newsweek magazine, I can't remember one of the New York papers. There were there were a number of significant critics that panned the film.
We got a lot of bad reviews.
And in a couple of cases, I must say, one was Newsweek, and I forgot the other one. They several months later came back and re-reviewed it and said, in essence, I was wrong. But other than that, nobody retracted their bad reviews, and it really was what made the film successful early on, I think. Well, I'll give you an example. In San Francisco, which was the height of the flower children period, and people were smoking funny cigarettes, and you could smell it in the movie theater. And it had the longest single run in a first-run theater in the United States.